latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Just updating those celebrating Judge Sarah Ellis's order that ICE Commander Greg Bovino show up every day to brief her on ICE's activities. That got appealed to the Seventh Circuit, and the Seventh Circuit issued a temporary stay on that administrative order from Judge Ellis, who is basically JB or BJ in a robe, meaning a politician in a robe that is applying her ideology, not the law. The Department of Homeland Security appealed, asking for a writ of mandamus from the Seventh Circuit, which is, an order from a higher court to a lower court or a government agency for specific performance, and that is pending. But there's a stay on her order so that Greg Bovino doesn't have to waste his time being whistled to the principal's office effectively every day. In bigger news, yesterday, indictments. The Broadview 6, Kat, the commie for Congress, who is running to replace Calamity Jan Schakowsky in the 9th District. A dandy from Oak Park, who's on the village council of that commie town. Commies all abound. And a handful of others, 4 others, indicted for interfering with ICE officers at the Broadview facility. And this is what Kat the Commie posted on Blue Sky in response to her indictment.
My name is Kat Abou-Ghazaleh. I'm running for Congress in the 9th District of Illinois, and the Department of Justice is charging 6 people, including myself, with federal crimes for exercising our First Amendment rights near ICE's Broadview Processing Center. This is a political prosecution and a gross attempt to silence dissent, a right protected under the First Amendment. This case is a major push by the Trump administration to criminalize protest and punish anyone who speaks out against them. That's why I'm going to fight these unjust charges, but I need your help to do it. As I and others have exercised our First Amendment rights, ICE has hit, dragged, thrown, shot with pepper balls, and tear gassed hundreds of protesters, simply because we had the gall to say that masked men coming into our communities, abducting our neighbors, and terrorizing us cannot be our new normal. And because Chicago doesn't back down from bullies in masks who tear gas our neighborhoods, this administration has resorted to weaponizing the federal justice system to scare us into silence. But we're not going to be silent. The Trump administration wants you to be afraid of speaking out against it and its anti-democratic power grabs. And there are plenty of reasons to be afraid right now, but we have to overcome that fear. This case targets our rights to protest, speak freely, and associate with anyone who disagrees with the government. And while we have seen the unhinged and unlawful tactics this administration has used against the American public, it's important to remember they're doing this because they are scared. They are wrong. And they know they are on the wrong side of history. We cannot diminish ourselves in the face of these attacks. That's why we have to unite and stand up for humanity, our rights, and everyone terrorized by Trump's lawless secret police. You'll be hearing regular updates directly from me about this case and how we can use our constitutional rights to resist authoritarianism. And as scary as all of this is, I have spent my career fighting America's backslide into fascism. I'm not going to stop now, and I hope you won't either.
Yeah. Her career of about 3 years as a professional agitator. It's a storied career. For more on the topic, please be joined by Paul Perez. He's the president of the National Border Patrol Council. Paul, lawlessness, secret police, abridgment of the right to protest, First Amendment rights of people like Kat. What's going on here in your view?
There was so much BS in that statement. I'm going to have to shower after this, but that is exactly the type of rhetoric that is causing those people to come out and, like you said, professional agitators they're out there antagonizing, trying to create situations where there are none. Our agents are out there doing lawful duty, performing their lawful duties, doing these enforcement actions to take out these people that have no right to be in the country. They entered illegally. They've got orders for deportation. They've got criminal records, and they're going after them. And you've got people like her that are out there trying to make it appear as if we're out there harassing citizens. You know, the thing about this is the people that we come across are not the aliens that we're actually going after. It's these agitators that are impeding and getting in the way of what we're trying to do. And that type of rhetoric is what has caused our agents to be at the receiving end of 1,000% increase in agent assault and doxing and going after our families because of people like her.
And the incidents where there have been crowd control measures used, is there anything that you've seen? I mean, again, this is sort of like the self-accountability question, because, you know, police don't like to see a bad police. And I know that's the culture in law enforcement generally. They don't want to see somebody crossing the line because they understand the implications for the reputation, theirs and the entire agencies. So have you seen anything or heard of any stories where you think that that was a bad judgment call, or that ICE crossed the line and they need to own up to that for the purposes of maintaining their legitimacy as people are watching?
Not in the videos that I've seen, and what I have seen based on my 28 years of experience, I can tell you our agents and officers are using a tremendous amount of restraint. They're using a tremendous amount of restraint. Now, they are going to go after those people that are doing harm. You see in these videos, there are people armed with weapons. They've they've slashed the tires of our vehicles. They've vandalized government property to include our vehicles. They've chunked rocks. They've chunked objects at our agents and officers. And so when we can go after them, we're going to go after them. But as you see, there are so many agitators out there that we have to watch our backs. Instead of doing the job that we're supposed to be doing, we're having to deal with these agitators. And so I can tell you they have used a tremendous amount of restraint.
You know, I mean, I this is sort of self-evident based on what you're describing, but I want to get your reaction anyway. The story out yesterday that the Pentagon ordered the National Guard to create quick reaction forces in every state and territory by January that are trained and equipped to respond to riots and civil unrest. The riot control units would be trained in non-lethal use of force for crowd control. As many as 500 soldiers in each state or territory would be assigned to deploy in the U.S. on short notice and receive non-lethal training in crowd control, handling of detainees, and use of batons, stun guns, and body shields. So that's obviously in preparation for the possibility that the situations like we've seen in Chicago escalate.
Yeah, we're not going to stop enforcing the law. We're not going to stop following the guidance from the president, who was given a mandate because he ran on this very topic. He was given a mandate to clean the streets up, to bring America back to safety and security and prosperity. We're going to continue doing it, and these agitators are only making things worse. They're getting more money, more funding, more organizing, and they're going after agents and officers. They're becoming more extreme. It's gotten a lot more dangerous, and so I fully support the Department of War's efforts to support us and back us up. Absolutely.
Tom Homan said this week that by the time the new year rolls around, will be more than 600,000 deportations. He also said the majority are criminals, and the data proves that. And who are the other 30 to 35%? Those are national security threats who don't have a lot of criminal convictions. We're prioritizing public safety threats and national security threats, but as I said, no one is off the table, and if we find you, we're going to arrest you. Is that consistent with what you understand to be sort of the distribution of ICE activity and apprehensions to date?
It is, yeah. And so what a lot of people are not talking about is the million plus who have self-deported. They have left on their own accord because they know that we're coming into cities and municipalities across the country. And if we find them, we're going to deport them, and they're never going to have an opportunity to come back into the United States. So on their own, there are over 1 million that have self-deported. They've removed themselves from the United States because they know they had no legal right to be here. And so, yeah, the numbers are great for us.
And also, too, I mean, just as a point of order, despite the vituperative nature and, in some cases, violent nature of the protesters and the rhetoric of a lot of sanctuary state and city politicians, the applications nationally to become an ICE officer dwarf the available positions. I read it something like 10-1. Is that correct?
That is correct. They can't hire. They can't hire quick enough because there's such an increase in the amount of applicants that are wanting to get into these ICE positions to help, President Trump run the largest deportation effort in the history of this country.
And, since you're Border Patrol Counsel, too, President of the National Border Patrol Council, just going back to the border, too, we sort of, take this as, as the customary situation that we don't have a problem at the border. I mean, our governor here in Illinois, Pritzker, saying, we had, on Brett Baier last week, we had a problem at the border, and now we don't. And he just sort of glossed over why we had it and now why we don't. But the situation at the border is one of the key pieces, not just the sending the message out internationally that we're serious about border security and we're not going to be releasing people into the country, paroling people into the country that just then disappear the way that the Biden administration did. But something that Tom Homan says, and I think needs to be repeated a lot to penetrate the public's consciousness, is this whole idea of somebody crosses the border illegally, they go on a detainment and the detainment docket for adjudication of any asylum claim, and that is their due process, and that happens relatively quickly within 60 days, or 60 to 90 days, I think you said, versus what the Biden administration was doing, despite the capacity to detain and process asylum claims, letting them into the country, and then your years in the offing and paperwork back and forth, trying to track people down as they're moving about the country. And that was the game that they played. Is what's happening at the border for I know it's a slower flow, but there's still people, I'm sure, trying to get in. Is that the key, is keeping them detained and on the detainment docket so any claims can be adjudicated, and most are going to be turned away, and that's exactly what's happening?
Yeah, the overwhelming majority of the people that we're apprehending are being repatriated. They're being deported right away. And so we're not having to hold them in detainment because, of course, what President Biden was doing was he opened the border completely, and he allowed anybody to come in, make a silly claim, and be released pending a hearing date. What we've done is we ended catch and release. President Trump ended catch and release on day one, which turned the magnet off for people to just come in and get a free ride into the interior of the United States. He's ended that. Deterrence is our biggest friend now. We've got thousands of agents on the line, on the border, securing the border, and making sure that people know that if they cross, they're going to get apprehended and they're going to be returned. So that's the difference between the Biden administration and the Trump administration, is we've taken a deterrent enforcement posture, whereas President Biden took a welcoming encouragement to break our laws aspect, and that's the difference. That's what's helping us now.
And the other thing that seems to have gone away is that excuse. One of the excuses they were using, the open borders crowd, is, well, these countries won't take them back. I'm not hearing problems with repatriation anymore.
Yeah, they had no respect for Biden or his administration. President Trump brings the strength of the Oval Office, the strength of the White House back to the world stage, and they know he's not messing around. So he will make sure that these countries take back their citizens, or there'll be consequences.
Paul Perez is president of the National Border Patrol Council. Paul, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer.